Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Deportations. It seems Trump wants to deport anybody that he decides deserves it, including U.S. citizens, apparently. We'll look at that tonight. We'll look at his lie about gas prices again, and we'll look at fear. Canadians celebrating Canada Day in the face of fear. I wasn't here yesterday, but I'm back today. And we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about fear on the other side of the border, where a lot of people are fearful of ICE agents. Whether you're a citizen or not a citizen, there is an ample amount of fear going around, a lot of fear. Although I don't know if Zoran Mamdani, the Democrat hopeful mayoral candidate in New York, is really fearful, but he is responding to Trump talking about having him deported as Trump comes off the visit to Alligator Alcatraz. Oh, we have so much to talk about tonight, including halting arms shipments, at least some of them, to Ukraine. But then we're going to wrap it all up with something I witnessed yesterday, a spectacular fireworks display, which I will bring to you right here on the Maverick News channel on the other side of this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so we do have a lot of things to talk about, but I'm going to flip things kind of upside down today. I wasn't going to lead with this, but I am going to lead with it because Trump dominates. Look, I'm even talking about Trump when I'm trying not to talk about Trump, but he dominates the news cycle every single day. But then I got to thinking just before airtime, you know what? I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to try to do something, put a little more positivity off the top of the broadcast tonight, because it ties into all of that. I'm backtracking to yesterday because I wasn't here. I'm sorry I wasn't able to join you guys last night, but I had other things to do. And one of those things was to go to a fireworks display, a Canada Day fireworks display, and there were many of them across the country. Big one in Ottawa, in fact. And what can I tell you about that? Well, I can tell you that even though and I saw this in the chat with Dragon, it's true, for the second year in a row, the Canada Day Parade in Montreal, Quebec, canceled. That was because of ongoing planning disruptions, strained relations with city departments, unresolved challenges stemming from municipal workers' strikes. The list of problems goes on and on and on in Montreal. However, across Canada, Lots of other people celebrating. Just checking something here as we get into this tonight. Oh, we're going to get into the Sean Diddy thing too. We'll get into that. But yeah, people celebrated from coast to coast to coast. They celebrated the 158th Canada Day with an unprecedented wave of pride yesterday, defiance, and hope, despite ongoing threats from U.S. President Donald Trump to make Canada the 51st state. And I have to tell you that a lot of people I came into contact with yesterday were talking about exactly those things: the 51st state, the tariffs, the pressure on Canada, this idea that the U.S. really controls all of North America anyway, and the Western Hemisphere, because they are the superpower. They're so powerful, and Trump is so powerful. And this is what I heard from a few people. Others defiant in the face of all that and ready to celebrate last night. From Vancouver's Stanley Park to St. John's Old Port, millions gathered in city squares, parks, and small town streets, waving maple leaf flags, singing "O Canada" under dazzling fireworks last night. In Ottawa, Prime Minister Mark Carney delivered his first speech, his first Canada Day speech, that is, as leader, addressing a vibrant crowd. And he said, "Our values are being tested by attacks on our sovereignty," even top of mind for the Prime Minister. Canada's sovereignty, the future of the country. Carney went on to say, "But as the world grows more divided, Canadians are uniting with elbows up." And while some say that that is a partisan thing now, I'm not so sure. And I think Canadians are so darn polite. I heard people yesterday had conversations with them saying, "Well, I don't really agree entirely with the elbows up thing because, well, we don't really want to fight." Well, okay. I get it. Nobody really wants to fight, and people are afraid to fight the United States because they are perceived to be Godzilla. They're huge. They're big. They're powerful. At least they are right now, or they appear to be. I remind you that, I said this to somebody yesterday. The United States is $30 trillion in debt. They need Canada more than we need them. In fact, they need us because they need our resources to pay off their debt. And then later, I thought, it's actually more than 30 trillion. The debt on the US side is growing so fast, it is now up to about $36 trillion. And they are adding about $4 trillion to the US debt. That's the total amount of money that the federal government owes, of $4 trillion every single year more. And that, of course, compounds over time. So the level of debt accelerates and accelerates and accelerates. And that's why Trump is working so hard to cut expenditures. That's partly what Doge has been about, but not really. That's really about eliminating political opponents, calling it, draining the swamp. But all that being said, everywhere I went, as people were saying, "Oh, I don't really want to fight." Yeah, they do. Yes, they do. It doesn't take much to get them to drop the gloves just in conversation. It's like, yeah, yeah, we don't want to be part of that, um, because deep down inside, I would say the vast majority of Canadians yesterday were eager to celebrate Canada Day in the face of the fear, and there's a lot of fear going around, and that is because of the nature of this Trump administration 2.0. It is different than the first time around. Maybe it's because Trump didn't manage to get his heels dug in all the way the first time or get his teeth sunk into the presidency the way that he has this time. He's certainly coming at this with a different team this time and a different level of intensity. He is in a hurry, dealing with all of these different issues, from tariffs to deportations. But here in Canada, from Nunavut's remote shores to Calgary's bustling streets, Canadians looked skyward as fireworks lit up Yeah, they lit up the night last night, symbolizing hope for a future rooted in independence and unity. A narrative research poll showed 68% of Canadians are doubling down on buying local, with flag sales soaring and travel to the U.S. dropping 38% year over year. And as I say, Mark Carney yesterday in Ottawa, not just delivering his first Canada Day speech, but also meeting regular, everyday, ordinary Canuckistanians in the nation's capital on Parliament Hill. And since I wasn't here yesterday, I'll just show you what that was about yesterday. Love him, hate him, whatever. He's still the Prime Minister. We still have a country. And I've seen the rhetoric, the language surrounding the decision to rescind the digital services tax. It's softened. Initially, there was all this kickback, particularly from conservative live streamers saying Carney had bent the knee to Trump, but I said, not really. I think it's all window dressing, largely. I don't think the DST was even that important to the Carney. I think it was more of a Trudeau thing. And so by rescinding it at the last minute, just as it was about to kick in and the first bills were due for the big social media tech giants, it appeared as though Trump maybe was winning. He got to win. But I think really it was a strategic move in the timing as much as anything else, because Trump kind of delivered that ultimatum on the DST, saying, I'm terminating all trade talks unless you get rid of that digital services tax. And also, by the way, I'm still upset about your dairy industry. But really, ultimately, in the end, I don't think it really mattered that much to Carney. And I think they're using the optics of it to give Donald Trump an ego boost and solidify Canada's position as these negotiations continue. And I would submit that the negotiations were never actually cut off, that the back channels remained open the entire time. And that's evident in the swift resolution of that whole thing. But anyway, that's kind of old news, yesterday's news. This is actually definitely yesterday's news, but it's also today's news, because Canada is not the only country. We're not the only people. We're not the only ones living in just a little bit of fear of Donald Trump. We're going to come back to all of that. But we're going to talk a little bit now even about the fear of what's happening in Ukraine, because I think that this does inject more fear when we hear tonight that the U.S. has suspended some military aid to Ukraine, raising concerns about the ongoing war with Russia. It's this on again, off again, maybe a little bit, no, we're not going to support Ukraine. This weird, just inconsistent approach to dealing with this war in Ukraine. So according to multiple reports, the Trump administration has paused deliveries of certain weapons. I'm hearing a lot of rhetoric out there that is amplified, jacked up, exaggerated, but the truth is that deliveries of certain weapons, including air defense missiles and precision munitions, has taken effect on the U.S. side, with the U.S. citing low U.S. stockpiles. The decision follows a tense White House meeting between Trump and Vladimir Zelensky, of course, where Trump expressed frustration over Ukraine's stance on peace negotiations with Russia, where he kind of browbeat Zelensky. But then when he went to the G7, when he went to the NATO summit, Trump's rhetoric seemed to soften a lot toward Ukraine. And then he was saying he wasn't necessarily against. He was maybe considering sending more Patriot missiles to Ukraine. But now, as Hegseth, Defense Secretary, spearheads this review of munitions levels and stockpiles, we get this announcement overnight that aid to Ukraine for certain things is being suspended. The move affects over $3.8 billion in previously approved military assistance, including equipment already in transit. So we're hearing these things might be needed someplace else, maybe even here to defend the United States. So the suspension has sparked alarm in Ukraine, with officials warning it could weaken their defenses against Russian attacks, particularly air defense systems like uh, the Patriot, which rely on U.S.-made missiles. And European allies, caught off guard by the decision, are now scrambling to fill the gap. The European Union has proposed an $800 billion plan to bolster its defense capabilities and support Ukraine, while countries like the UK and France have pledged additional aid. And over on the US side, we are seeing responses like this one from Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick, who says here, I am writing to express my serious concern with recent public reporting that the United States is withholding defense material already pledged to Ukraine, and amid Russia's unyielding summer assault, persistent airstrikes launched by the Putin regime against civilian targets are escalating at an unprecedented level. Just this week, Russian forces launched over 500 aerial weapons, making it the largest strike against Ukraine since the beginning of the war. The U.S.'s provision of Patriot air defense interceptors, air-to-air missiles, Hellfire air-to-ground missiles, and surface-to-surface rockets, artillery rounds, and Stinger surface-to-air missiles have allowed Ukraine to effectively counter Russian offensive strikes and limit the loss of human life. While the United States needs continue to strengthen our defense industrial base here at home, we can and must simultaneously provide urgently needed assistance to our allies who are defending their freedom from brutal invading dictators. To not do both is unacceptable. Mr. President, Ukrainian soldiers and pilots are now just protecting their homeland. They're holding the line for the entire democratic world. This is a defining moment. Ukraine's courage must continue to be met with action, and the United States must continue to lead with clarity and purpose. There can be no half measures in the defense of liberty. We must, as we always have, stand for peace through strength. I respectfully request an emergency briefing from the White House and Department of Defense on the Pentagon's recent review of our nation's weapons and munition stockpiles, as well as the decision to withhold urgent, life-saving military assistance to Ukraine. Yeah, so tomorrow we will have, I think, a guest on who is a military expert who will help us make some sense out of all this, or at least give us some perspective so that we get a better understanding of what is really going on and what it will actually mean if this holds, if these shipments of arms are cut. And, you know, I'm hearing a few different narratives spun up on this, but the pro-Russian side, of course, saying it's because the United States can't afford it, and this was coming, and Ukraine can't win anyway. And on the other side, I'm hearing that I think on the other side, a little bit more realistic assessment in that it's not all arms shipments. It's certain arms shipments, but certainly it is going to put additional strain on what Ukraine is doing. And it will, I think, ultimately embolden Putin and Russia, because their game, I think, is largely to grind everything down, to hold out as long as they can, in the hopes that the United States and the American people and Canadians and the allies slowly begin to grow weary of the conflict and withdraw support. And if support wanes, then that will make everything much easier for the Russians. And ultimately, if support is pulled, then that is what will guarantee a Russian victory. But right now, the Russian summer offensive is only slowly grinding ahead, with very little of any actual ground being made over even the past couple of months. So It's not, it has been tough slogging, and it has been a deadly, brutal, horrific war. And hopefully we can get to some resolution quickly. And I have to ask some questions tomorrow night about where do we sit with this minerals deal and all of these things that Zelensky has agreed to under Trump. It's like they've basically given the Trump administration what they wanted, and now this again. It makes you wonder, well, should we even wonder if Trump can be trusted to keep his word? Or will the United States live up to its reputation and kind of bail and become an unreliable partner again, as it appears they are in this case? But we shall see. We will see. So the White House is insisting the pause is not permanent and is part of a review to align aid with U.S. policy goals, including a push for a ceasefire. But something doesn't feel right about it. It does feel like even though it isn't getting that much attention through media tonight, I think this is a pivotal moment. It could just be smoke and mirrors too. The fog of war. What else can I say? Fear in Ukraine, fear on the streets of the United States, where we've seen just in the past couple of days, a mother of two wrongfully detained by immigration and customs enforcement agents in a distressing incident that has sparked outrage in the community. This in Pasadena again, as I mentioned. I've got the video of this. So as much as a lot of people on the MAGA side are cheering these deportations, innocent people are being scooped up in increasing numbers by ICE agents, often just in plain clothes. Hard, if not impossible, to identify. And I'm even hearing reports that in some cases they're not even carrying proper identification. That I cannot verify, at least not as we sit here tonight, but those are reports that are out there. So if anybody knows for sure one way or another, let me know. And here's the video of this mother in Pasadena, California, being arrested by ICE agents in front of her kids.
You have a warrant. You don't have a warrant.
Where is it? Where is it?
No, you don't. No, you don't. Show me. Show me right now.
Where's the warrant at?
No. Show me the warrant right now.
We're not gonna let her go.
Yo, get your hands on my mom. What? No, where's the warrant?
No.
Please. No, where's the warrant? Show me first.
Where's it?
Show me first. No.
Come on, can you go?
We have a right.
Can you come, please?
You have a warrant. You don't have.
Okay, so that is scary. Innocent people being caught up in all of this. So this was on actually Saturday morning around 7:30 a.m. Rosalina Luna Vargas was walking with her sons, Bayardo, 20, and Alejandro, 17, near Catalina Avenue and Del Mar Boulevard, when three plainclothes ICE agents attempted to detain her in front of her children. Witnesses report the agents, two of whom were masked and only two displaying badges, tried to force Vargas into an unmarked vehicle without initially showing a warrant. The incident, partially captured on video here by a bystander, prompted a 911 call reporting a suspected kidnapping. Vargas briefly broke free, running to nearby Del Mar Park, assisted living facility, where staff informed agents they could not remain without a warrant. The agents later returned, produced a warrant, and took Vargas into custody. According to a family member, the warrant was for a different person entirely, suggesting Vargas and her children were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Pasadena police arrived to verify the agents' identities, but did not assist in the apprehension, stating they were responding solely to the suspicious activity call. And Vargas, the primary breadwinner for her family, was treated by Pasadena Fire at the scene and declined hospital transport. Her sons, both U.S. citizens born and raised in Pasadena, are now grappling with her absence, and Bayardo acting as legal guardian for his younger brother. The detention has sent shockwaves through the community. On Monday evening, nearly 200 residents, activists, and faith leaders gathered for a vigil at the site of the arrest, organized by groups like the National Day Labor Organized Network and the Pasadena NAACP. Vargas's son spoke at the event, describing their mother as a hardworking woman who doesn't deserve this treatment. There's a GoFundMe that has been set up to help the family. Local leaders, politicians condemned the incident, with Representative Judy Chu calling ISIS tactics vile and accusing agents of targeting families without transparency. The arrest is part of a broader wave of ICE operations in Southern California, with over 1,600 detentions reported in the region as of June 25th, many involving individuals with no criminal history. The Vargas family and community advocates are demanding Rosalina's immediate release, citing the mistaken identity and lack of due process. ICE has not commented on this specific case, but the incident has reignited debates over the agency's methods under the current administration's immigration crackdown. And Trump isn't targeting through ICE just moms and not just illegal immigrants, as he would characterize them. Here's another one. This one, where was this? This was apparently a mother picking up her kids at school. ICE agents arresting her. Here, I'll show it to you. I don't have, no, I'm not going to show it to you. I don't have all the details. So until I know a little bit more, I'll refrain from sharing the video. Because this is, oh man, there's the whole, well, you know what I will do? I'm just going to scroll down. I'm going to show you the Twitter feed. What's going on with all these arrests? The social media is full of them now because it's just so widespread. Bad vibes, man. I'm telling you. I don't think it's a good look for the United States, but where's that feed? I'm sorry. Seems I've lost my tab. Oh, here we go. So just, there's that one we just showed you. There's more ICE agents going into homes. Children upset. And I can't speak to all the details in all these cases. I just don't know. I'm just showing you that the social media is full of these kinds of videos. This is exactly what I predicted would happen if these deportations were carried out in the manner in which Trump was promising during the election. I said, well, what's this really going to look like? It's going to look terrible. And this is exactly what's happening. Families being arrested, kids, parents being split up, huge numbers being deported, even to other countries. And social media full of videos showing it all, or a lot of it. What the heck is that? I don't know. Somebody upset about it. And yeah, so no shortage of videos like that. Bring that one down. We'll just close that tab. Now, Trump making waves, of course. He said the other day, well, you know what? Before we get into that, we're going to split this up a little bit to just kind of, I would say, just continue the story flow in a way that's understandable and keep everything kind of tied together properly. So let's go to the press gaggle. This is also from yesterday, still relevant today, because some of what he's going to say here ties into what Zoran Mamdani, the Democratic Socialist candidate for mayor in New York City, is about to share. I'm about to share what he said today about what Trump said here yesterday. But I'm going to run a lot of this, not the whole thing, but a lot of what Trump had to say yesterday during this encounter with the media before leaving the White House to go to Alligator Alcatraz.
I think in the end we're going to have it. What do you think, Caroline?
What do you think about Zoran Mamdani having such a hard time condemning the phrase globalize the intifada?
I think he's terrible. He's a communist. The last thing we need is a communist. I said there will never be socialism in the United States. Now we have a communist. So I think he's bad news. And I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with him, watching him, because he has to come right to this building to get his money. And don't worry, he's not going to run away with anything. I think he's frankly, I've heard he's a total nut job. I think the people of New York are crazy. If they go this route, I think they're crazy. We will have a communist for the first time, really, a pure, true communist. He wants to operate the grocery stores, the department stores. What about the people that are there? I think it's crazy.
Okay, so I'll run the clip now of Mamdani and his response to that today. So yeah, he says, I think it's crazy. Trump says he thinks he's crazy. He describes Mamdani as a communist. And I suppose you could argue that. He's certainly a socialist, and one of the most, what's the right word? Some would say radical. I would say socialist. In the true sense of a socialist. Yeah, he wants to have city-run grocery stores, some, not all, but some, but that would create competition for privately run grocery stores. He wants free public transit. He wants to tax the rich and give to the poor. And I'm personally, as you know, I'm a free market guy, but I'm not really into deporting people just because they're socialists. And I certainly see an upside to some degree to having government provide some social safety nets. I think in an affluent society, that's understandable why people want things like that. But here he is today responding to Trump's threats to deport him.
Yesterday, Donald Trump said that I should be arrested. He said that I should be deported. He said that I should be denaturalized. And he said those things about me, someone who stands to be the first immigrant mayor of this city in generations, someone who would also be the first Muslim and the first South Asian mayor in this city's history. Less so because of who I am, because of where I come from, because of how I look or how I speak, and more so because he wants to distract from what I fight for. I fight for working people. I fight for the very people that have been priced out of this city, and I fight for the same people that he said he was fighting for. This is the same president who ran on a campaign of cheaper groceries, who ran on a campaign about easing a suffocating cost of living crisis. And ultimately, it is easier for him to fan the flames of division than to acknowledge the ways in which he has betrayed those working class Americans, not just in this city, but across this country, and the ways in which he continues to betray them. Because we know that he would rather speak about me than speak about the legislation that he is shepherding through Washington, D.C. Legislation that will quite literally take health care away from Americans. Legislation that will steal food from the hungry. Legislation that looks to build upon one of the largest transfers of wealth we've seen in recent history in his first administration and do it once again for the very Americans who already have enough. We should be fighting for those that do not have what they need to live a dignified life. That is what I will do, and I am thankful to have the protection and to have the support of so many New Yorkers who have stood up and said how unacceptable this is, including our governor, including members of the labor movement. And ultimately, what I fear for is that if this is what Donald Trump and his administration feel comfortable about saying about the Democratic nominee for the mayor of New York City, imagine what they feel comfortable saying and doing about immigrants whose names they don't even know.
Yeah, so You know what they say, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Trump represents the rise of populism, which some would say is a far right political ideology. I would argue that it represents a convergence of the left and the right, which really just reinforces what I've always said, is that the political spectrum with the left and the right, fascism on the right and socialism or communism on the left. No, I don't think that that's actually true. I think that you get the socialism all over on the one side. Fascism is akin to a form of socialism. In any event, you've got this convergence, and the people in the middle are all kind of out there, but they're being pulled to these extremes, these political extremes. And Mamdani's rise in popularity and his injection into the political system in New York City as I'd say the leading contender now to become the next mayor. That's a manifestation of a result of this intense polarization in politics in America. It's a response to people looking for some sort of a solution. And when you get something as extreme as we're getting in Trump 2.0, which is extreme, more extreme than we certainly experienced in Trump 1.0, then this is what you get on the other side. And this is history in some respects rhyming. But what's going on with Trump is a little bit different because it is convergence. Will it hold? Will it spread? Will it dominate the political landscape globally? I'm not so sure, because now you're seeing this opposition emerging on the US side and in New York City. And anyone who becomes the mayor of New York City, that's a national platform in the US. That's a platform that gives you a voice on the world stage. It's not just a municipal position. And don't underestimate this candidate, because I'd never heard of him before. He seemed to come out of nowhere, but after learning more about him, I can see that Mamdani is a serious threat to Donald Trump, to that populist, he's a serious threat to the populist candidate. And when I say threat, I just mean he's a serious contender, a strong opponent. He may win, and he will be one of the the leading figures on that side of the political aisle, moving ahead as the Democrats look to redefine, reorient who they are, what they stand for, after clearly now realizing that they were out of touch with the people during the election, the presidential election, where Biden faltered and then Kamala Harris came in, and it just didn't resonate with people. But Mamdani is, and that's because for every action, you get an equal and opposite reaction. I don't know how much longevity there is in it, but right now he is a rising star. When I say don't count him out, it's because he actually comes from a background that is not traditional American elite, but they're serious. But the people behind him are serious. His mom, for instance, I've learned, very active as a movie producer in the film industry, in the Bollywood film production. And as a result, I don't know what her exact position is, whether she's a producer or a director or a combination of these things, but apparently she helped produce some of the videos, these slick videos, promotional videos that Mamdani has used to propel, to elevate his position, his candidacy, as he aims toward getting that top job in New York City as the mayor. So he's got serious people behind him, and I think there's probably some serious money as well. And what will Cuomo do after losing the nomination to him? Mamdani? Well, some people are saying that Cuomo might run as an independent, forcing the Democrats to, I guess, take stock of where they're really at, and do they want to stand in the way of Mamdani? Do they want to end that, stop that before it gets a lot of traction in the same sort of way that they stopped Bernie Sanders when it looked like he was going to upset Hillary Clinton, that ultimately he was kicked to the curb, or kicked to the back of the back of the bus. So we'll see what happens with Mamdani. It's a very interesting story, and he's going to be around for a while. That guy has momentum. And the more Donald Trump criticizes him, I think the stronger he will make him. And it's not wise for Trump to talk about deporting somebody like that. I don't think it might resonate with some people within his political base, but that kind of talk right now, again, I think it's a miscalculation. And here he is. Here's Trump. This is during his trip to Alcatraz. And he's talking about now, see, not just deporting illegal immigrants, but in this clip, he's actually talking about deporting bad Americans, people with American citizenship. Now, I know that some people will cheer this as well, just because we're talking about violent criminals. But listen to what he's saying. America, like every other country, needs to deal with its own criminals, its own problems, but not Trump. He wants to now send the bad criminals out of the country.
I'd like to say, a little controversial, but I couldn't care less. We have a lot of bad criminals that came into this country, and they came in stupidly. It was an unforced error. It was an incompetent president that allowed it to happen. It was an auto pen maybe that allowed it to happen, and it did happen. But we also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time. People that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them. People that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together. But I think getting them out, we forget about them. We had some bad accidents in New York, and they're not accidents. I'd like to say,
Yeah, well, he should start to care, because it's about the Constitution. It's about the United States taking, responsibility for its own problems and dealing with them. And it's not cool to talk about deporting U.S. citizens, even if they have committed criminal acts. It's look, I'm not sticking up for the criminals. I'm sticking up for the rule of law, and trying to preserve some degree of normalcy and stability in the society. You can't just let politicians start deporting citizens. That's not what deportation is about. It's dangerous. It's a very dangerous precedent. So I hope they don't start deporting their own citizens. In any event, let's go back to the other media encounter that Trump had yesterday, because he said a few other things that deserve attention today, including what's going on with Elon Musk.
Nothing. He's upset that he's losing his EV mandate, and he's upset. He's very upset about things, but he could lose a lot more than that. I can tell you right now. Hey, Elon can lose a lot more than that.
What do you expect will happen? Inspiring Gaza to be a great move before Prime Minister Netanyahu comes next week.
We hope it's going to happen, and we're looking for it to happen sometime next week.
So his feud with Elon Musk rekindled again, and it's all over the big beautiful bill and massive amounts of spending, and Musk saying being opposed to what he sees, I think, as corruption in the White House. And The corruption, frankly, is on full display, not just in the sense that he's made, when I say corruption, I mean, it extends even just into behavior. What's Trump been promoting even on social media, on Truth Social? His new fragrance, Trump Victory 4547, I think is what it's called. Using your position as president for personal gain in that matter, in that manner, is a form of corruption because you're exploiting the presidency in order to profit. Using your position as president in order to profit. And that is in itself, well, it's unethical, if nothing else. And other presidents through time have gone to great lengths to avoid even the perception of such behavior, but not Trump. He embraces it in any event. And he's going to come back and talk a little bit more about Musk later in this exchange with the media. But let's just let a little more of this roll.
Have to include the release of all of the hostages.
We want to get our hostages back. We want to get the hostages back.
What if the big beautiful bill doesn't pass? You have to go through item by item by item and pass this stuff one at a time, or are you just going to try again?
I think we're going to get there. It's tough. We're trying to break it down so it's really good for the country. Trying to get a lot for everybody. And it's a big bill. And smaller bills would have been easy, but they wouldn't have been as good. I think it's going to do okay.
And with the alligator Alcatraz, it's the idea that if some...
I just want to say too, when politicians have a hard time reading all the different bills or pieces of legislation that they have placed in front of them because it's a lot of homework. That's their job. They're supposed to do it. But when you present a bill that is, I think it's 940 pages in length, nearly 1,000 pages, there's usually a reason for that. And that reason is usually to hide things in order to get things that are not palatable to the public passed.
Illegal immigrant escapes. They just get eaten by an alligator or a snake or something?
I guess that's the concept. This is not a nice business. I guess that's the concept. If the snakes are fast, but alligators we're going to teach them how to run away from an alligator, okay? If they escape prison. How to run away. Don't run in a straight line. Run like this. And you know what? Your chances go up about 1%. Okay?
President, what are you
What are you going to talk to Matt about next Monday? Well, he's coming here. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about the great success we had. I mean, we had an incredible, in Iran, we had an incredible success. Like really nobody's had in many, many years. That was a precision war strike. And the word obliteration can now be used because the Atomic Energy Commission said you can't even get into the place. It was demolished. It was really...
Now, this whole idea of total obliteration, he keeps coming back to it. I would take that with a grain of salt. And in fact, I would say that there's a possibility here, and I'm not sure, maybe our military expert tomorrow night will be able to weigh in on this a little bit more as well. I think that what's going on with Trump right now may have actually made the world much less safe because today we're seeing Iran is now refusing to allow the International Atomic Energy Agency to come in and conduct inspections. We've seen exactly that kind of rhetoric and behavior before. Where? In Iraq with Saddam Hussein in the days leading up to the U.S. invasion, when Saddam Hussein was refusing to allow weapons inspections. Now, I'm not getting into whether they had weapons of mass destruction or not. What I am saying is that I'm seeing echoes again of the past here, but in this case, just creating a situation where now the IAEA is not being allowed into Iran to inspect tells me that it creates, well, it doesn't tell me, it does create a more unstable environment. So if Iran did actually move the uranium that some believe they moved, that has been enriched to, like, as they say, 60%, not the full 90. But if they moved all of that, if this program has not been obliterated as Trump wants you to believe, and now you're not getting any inspections, then this creates a very dangerous situation. Either way, we don't have any way to verify. Ronald Reagan used to say, trust but verify. Well, in this case, Trump wants us to trust him and believe that the Iranian nuclear program has been totally obliterated. I'm seeing a lot of people on the US side say, no, it hasn't been obliterated. It has been damaged. We're seeing the Iranians say that there has been some damage, but we're not sure. Like, we can't trust anything they're saying either because they're putting their spin on it. We don't know. And now that the IAEA, which is the United Nations nuclear watchdog, is not being given access or is being denied access to inspect anything, that puts everything into a very dangerous place. This situation is not more stable. It is not safer than it was before, unless, of course, Trump is telling the truth and they really did obliterate all of the nuclear research capabilities of Iran. If that's true, then we're safer. But if it's not true, and I have every reason to doubt Donald Trump because he lies so much. You can't trust the guy. You can't even trust the guy when you make a deal with him. Because even when you make a trade deal, it may or may not stick. It might stick for a day. It might stick for 2 years. But the chances are it's not going to stick.
It's a great, brilliant strike, and how to go forward. We're also going to talk about Gaza. We want to get the rest. We got a lot of hostages back, but we're going to talk about that.
Are you going to deport Elon Musk?
I don't know. We'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies, Peter. But Elon's very upset that the EV mandate is going to be terminated. And you know what? When you look at it, not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want to have maybe gasoline, maybe electric, maybe a hybrid, maybe someday a hydrogen. If you have a hydrogen car, it has one problem. It blows up, So I'm going to give that one to Peter.
So what did you just hear there? What I'm hearing is he wants to turn Doge, or he's threatening to turn Doge on Elon. Well, why? Isn't Doge supposed to be the Department of Government Efficiency? Isn't the focus supposed to be on just making government more efficient? So why is Trump standing there threatening to use it as some sort of political weapon against a guy who spent $270 million to get Trump elected and is now engaged in a knockdown, drag him out feud with the very guy who got him into the White House? Because Doge has never been about government efficiency. It has been about purging. It has been about purging political opposition within all levels of government. Getting rid of all the DEI, getting rid of anybody that's ever opposed anything that Donald Trump is in favor of. Getting rid of your political opponents. And now, because this blood feud has erupted into a full-scale political war between Musk and Trump, Trump is threatening to use the very weapon that he put in the hands of Elon Musk against Musk himself, and saying it's a monster and it can come back to eat Elon Musk, and he could suffer a lot more, could lose a lot more than just the EV mandate. Better watch your step there, Elon. Those are threats against a guy who was joined at the hip to Trump for a while. This is not pretty. It shows that there are serious cracks developing within the MAGA base, which I also predicted, because the whole MAGA movement has become very dysfunctional. And that's because in order to get elected, Trump was making deals with people that he does not align with politically. That includes even RFK Jr., who he, at one point, I think he called him a communist. Certainly called him a socialist, and that was the rhetoric that he was aiming at RFK Jr., and then made a deal when RFK Jr. dropped out of the race against Trump as an independent. But bring RFK Jr. over, bring his libertarian, socialistic, left wing, whatever, however you want to, his Democrats, all the people who are following RFK, bring them all over to the MAGA camp. And that's one of the things that helped propel Trump to the presidency this time around, making deals with people that he might otherwise not have anything in common with at all, certainly political opponents. But as they say, politics makes strange bedfellows. Let's take a little break. We'll come back on the other side.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I also need to comment on the comment about hydrogen cars that Trump made. He's wrong in the sense that there is a phobia that has always been out there since the Hindenburg disaster about hydrogen. Hydrogen actually would be a great fuel if you could work out all of the shortcomings, which is mostly about storage and use of hydrogen in the winter. And one of the drawbacks to hydrogen is that in the winter, the byproduct that you get from burning hydrogen is water. And so, of course, that can freeze in the winter. And depending on how you produce it, in some cases, you're producing it on board, you're putting water, making it from water. I've seen some systems use that, and that can freeze as well. But they have some solutions to some of those issues. And but the thing about hydrogen is it got a bad reputation when the Hindenburg burned. People say it blew up. It didn't actually blow up. It burned. And you can go find the footage of it. I won't show it to you here tonight. It's just something that came to mind. I've looked at it a lot over the years because, of course, I've done a fair bit of automotive journalism. Hydrogen is not really any less or more dangerous than any of these other fuels, gasoline, propane. And the reason that people have this negative attitude or phobia of hydrogen is because of the Hindenburg. The reality is, though, that if you really look up the information on what happened with the Hindenburg, it was the structure of the Hindenburg that mostly burned. The hydrogen itself, most of that escaped and floated up into the atmosphere, lighter than air, and it floated away. It didn't actually even ignite. It was the structure, the fabric of the Hindenburg that burned, and people even to this day just associate hydrogen, though, because it was inflated with hydrogen in order to make it fly, to make it light enough, this aircraft to make it fly. But the hydrogen itself, most of that didn't even actually ignite. So it didn't really blow up. But Trump, even in his little mind, still associates. You see, this is just a cliche. He is not that knowledgeable. For him to say that about hydrogen is not true. And that in itself puts humankind on the back foot. It hurts us all because hydrogen could be an actual viable, very green fuel because you make it from water, you break it down, you get hydrogen, and then when you burn it, you get carbon dioxide and water back on the other side, which is exactly what you need to make more hydrogen. So you never run out. And the idea that you'll run out of the water to make hydrogen is also a misconception because water, we have exactly the same amount of water on the planet today as existed when the Earth was first formed, to the drop, with the only exception being any water that has been carried into outer space on spacecraft and then expelled from the spacecraft into outer space. Other than that, all the water that was ever here is still here. Some of it's been polluted, but it's all still here. And we can use it as a form of energy. Anyway, just more food for thought and just something in passing. But Trump, so uneducated about so many things. And we have another clip of him here, actually, talking about another matter related to automotiving, motoring, cars, transportation, and that's the price of petrol, gasoline, which he today said, believe it or not, and he's lied like this before. He says the gasoline is down to $1.99.
No inflation. Gasoline just hit $1.99 today in 5 states. $1.99, isn't that a nice sound? It was up to $4, and going up to 5, 6, and 7. In California, it was $7.70. But we just hit in five states $1.99, $1.98. And it's coming down to that level, so that'll be a big thing. And one of the reasons, no inflation.
It's not true. I looked it up, and I triple checked it. He's not even close. It is not true. It's not $1.99 anywhere. In no states is it $1.99. Here, I'll show you. I had it up. I can get it again pretty easy. Well, here, I'll just bring it up this way. So if you go to the AAA website for gas prices, the American Automobile Association, and you can do this at any time. And this isn't the only source that I went to today. As I say, I triple checked it, but this is a very credible source. They monitor gas prices all day, every day, 24/7, 365. You can go on here and find out what the price of gasoline is anywhere in America. And here's the information. Average price, national average, $3.17 for a gallon of gasoline in the United States. And there you have it. You can go in here and start breaking it down. But I went and I searched, and the information that I got today is that nowhere in the US of A is gasoline $1.99 a gallon. Nowhere. Not in, let alone in 5 states. It's just a straight up lie. But that doesn't stop Trump. Never lets the truth get in the way of a good story, even if he is on Truth Social. It's just not true. He is like creating false reality. He is creating a false reality for people, a distortion of reality. He literally is. With this is him on Truth Social saying gas prices are at a 4-year low, then just makes this outrageous claim that it's $1.99 for a gallon of gasoline in 5 US states. And a lot of people just believe it because they don't check. And they just believe whatever the guy says. And it's not true. Just not true. How do you combat it? He has the bully pulpit, right? He has the platform, the big megaphone of the office of the president. But it's dangerous when you've got somebody in that position with that amount of power. There's a great degree of responsibility that comes with that, and that should mean telling the truth. Man, and he lies about Canada all the time. How much he hasn't come out lately with how much the U.S. subsidizes Canada. I think he said, what was it, $30 billion? They don't subsidize us at all. And they're going after our auto industry. And that's why today, Prime Minister Mark Carney met with top automotive industry executives. He did that this morning to address the escalating trade tensions with the U.S. and the auto sector as the auto sector in Ontario in particular grapples with these steep U.S. tariffs. So this was a closed door meeting and included CEOs from Ford Canada, Stellantis Canada, and General Motors Canada, along with Brian Kingston of the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association. The discussions centered on countering the impact of 25% U.S. tariffs on Canadian-made vehicles imposed by President Trump, who has repeatedly urged automakers to shift all production to the USA. A carve-out for U.S.-made components has added complexity to the highly integrated North American supply chain. And a statement from the Prime Minister's office today highlighted the urgent need to strengthen a made-in-Canada supply chain and diversify trade partners to reduce reliance on the U.S. market. Carney emphasized securing the best possible deal for Canadian workers and industries with ongoing trade negotiations, aiming for a new Canada-U.S. agreement by July 21st. And we've already talked a little bit about that and how Carney was able to get that back on track by rescinding the DST, the Digital Services Tax. But if that deadline is missed, Carney warned that Canada would escalate retaliatory trade measures. And so this meeting today came as Canada's auto industry is facing mounting pressure because Stellantis recently paused production at its Windsor, Ontario plant, idling 3,800 workers, and General Motors cut out a shift at its Oshawa facility. And Ontario's economy, which is a hub for auto manufacturing, could face a recession due to these tariffs, with 35,000 jobs possibly lost in the, well, it's not possible, but they have lost, I think, 35,000 jobs in the auto sector this April alone. So the Canadian government pushing back against the U.S. pressure, having already scrapped that DST. It's, as Carney says, though, part of a broader negotiation. Negotiation that, frankly, is completely unnecessary because these tariffs have initiated the dumbest trade war in history ever. This is just stupid to be doing this. But I don't think it's really it doesn't really have that much to do with trade. It's about politics. It's about a war on liberalism, classical liberalism and neoliberalism, coming from the populist political movement, the MAGA side, and it's global in scope. And yeah, it's a war on liberalism and a move toward geopolitical realignment globally, where we've talked about it, dividing the world between the superpowers, China, Russia, the United States, into global spheres of dominance. It starts to make sense when you begin to look at it through that lens, with that perspective. I'm getting it. Not to say that he's necessarily going to get his way on everything, but Trump is, I think, on board and in bed with that political movement. The MAGA movement certainly is, especially as you move more and more and more over into the hardcore MAGA crowd. So we'll keep an eye on all of that, especially that feud between Trump and Musk, because Trump also now talking about possibly starting something he's calling, I think, the America Party, in order to create a counterweight to the MAGA movement. Trump, in a sense, becoming, maybe for lack of a better phrase right now, the official opposition in the absence of a really organized and coherent Democrat Party. So we'll see how Musk fares with that. He says that he wants to, I think, do something to appeal to people in the center, but I'm not sure how that's ultimately going to resonate when people are being attracted so much to, the outer edges and the more extreme elements of politics. By the way, just a brief mention, I'm not going to get into it too much here tonight, but that ostrich farm, center of that political furor out in Edgewood, BC, the Universal Ostrich Farm, they have a court date coming up, which I wasn't able to mention the other night, and not last night because I wasn't here. July 15th, I believe, is the date. A one-day hearing. The farm got its stay in order to prepare legal arguments, and that case, I believe, will be heard in Ottawa, the nation's capital. One-day hearing, and I think the process is being expedited because of the possible health implications and perceived risk by the federal government, and we shall see how it all plays out. And I find the timing on this interesting because I think it coincides right around the same weekend as the big farm aid thing that they said they were trying to put together. And I'm not sure how the planning on that is going. I'm seeing mixed things online about it. On the one hand, I'm hearing that everybody has left the open air biolab with the ostriches where the experimentation was being done on them. On the other hand, I do see people kind of coming and going, and at times people gathering there still. Certainly on weekends, they seem to get a few people in, but I'm not sure if there's anybody there at all during the week. I've had some people say they're all gone, some people calling to tell me that everybody is gone, but I'm not sure how much weight to give those reports. I haven't really been paying as much attention to it because we are in a little bit of a state of transition with it as we work toward this July 15th court date. And that could ramp up into something more substantial before, during, and after all of that. So keep your eyes and ears open. I need to take a little break, clear my throat out a little bit. I need to have a little cough, something stuck in there. I'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, we're back. So yeah, we'll get that military expert on. His name shall remain withheld for the time being. I want to confirm that it's actually going to happen tomorrow night. It is scheduled, but I don't like promising something unless I can deliver. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night. I'll know probably later tonight or tomorrow for sure. Just additional confirmation. But on the Ukraine front, Ukrainian forces have reportedly killed several high-ranking Russian officers, including a major general, in a series of precision strikes. This marks a significant blow to Moscow's military leadership. According to posts on social media and Ukrainian sources, a Storm Shadow missile strike on a Russian command post in occupied Donetsk on Monday killed a Russian colonel, Gorechikin. I don't know who that is, not familiar. Probably not pronouncing the name correctly. Commander of Russia's 8th Combined Arms Army. And the attack targeted the headquarters, with multiple Russian military channels confirming his death. Separately, in Russia's Kursk region, a Ukrainian strike on the city of Koranovo reportedly eliminated Major General Mikhail Gudkov, Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Navy and former commander of the 155th Naval Infantry Brigade. Over 10 other senior officers were also killed in the Koranovo attack. Ukrainian officials say these strikes are part of a broader strategy to disrupt Russian command and control, leveraging advanced intelligence and long-range weapons. The deaths add to the unprecedented toll on Russia's officer corps, with Russian sources confirming 11 generals killed since the invasion, the full-scale invasion in February 2022. And of course, the actual invasion began much longer ago than that, in like 2014. So while Ukraine is active, analysts attribute these losses to Russia's top-heavy command structure and reliance on unsecured communications, making officers vulnerable to targeted attacks. These strikes come amid this intensified fighting that we're seeing, with Ukraine reporting 171 combat clashes just in the past day alone. It's an intense, grinding battle along a very long front line, and over 1,100 Russian personnel have been lost in this amount of time, and Moscow has not officially commented on the latest deaths, but the losses are likely to further strain Russian operations as the war nears its 1,225th day. So 1,100 Russian soldiers lost in the last, looks like, about a week. And on to this big story that most news outlets are leading with, but I've kind of pushed it to the back here because we haven't been giving it that much attention. In my mind, it's partly, it's been an extremely high-profile case. This Sean Combs, also known as Diddy or Puff Daddy, he was acquitted today of the most serious charges in his high-profile federal trial, marking a significant victory for him. So this after a 7-week trial in Manhattan, and this federal jury found Combs not guilty on 1 count of racketeering, conspiracy, and 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, which could have carried a life sentence. The jury, however, convicted Combs on 2 lesser counts of transportation to engage in prostitution related to his former girlfriends, singer Cassie Ventura and another woman identified as Jane. So each count carries a maximum of 10 years in prison, the prosecutor seeking a sentence of 4 to 5 years, though a sentencing date has not been set. The charges stem from allegations, of course, that Combs ran a criminal enterprise, coercing women into drug-fueled sex parties called freak-offs. Prosecutors presented testimony from Ventura and Jane, along with security footage showing Combs assaulting Ventura in a 2016 hotel incident. I'm sure you've seen that video from the security cameras at the hotel on social media. The defense argued the encounters were consensual, portraying Combs as a flawed but not criminal figure. It took 13 hours of deliberation, and the jury's split verdict rejected the prosecution's claims of a broader criminal conspiracy. Combs has been detained since his arrest back in September of last year, and he was denied bail today despite his team's request for a $1 million bond. So there were supporters outside the courthouse today chanting "Free Puff," while his family, including his mother and son, celebrated the acquittals. And the Manhattan U.S. Attorney's Office has vowed to continue pursuing justice for victims of sex crimes while Combs still faces multiple civil lawsuits alleging abuse. And so this verdict might just reshape the legacy of the Bad Boy Records founder. Of course, he's famous for elevating hip hop with artists like Notorious B.I.G., Big, and we'll continue to follow this one too. I wonder how many years he'll actually end up serving in prison. Seems a lot of these celebrity types go in and then they come right back out again. So it'll be interesting. Bill Cosby, another one, kind of in, out, in, out. I think he's in again right now. Maybe he's out. I can't remember. Can anybody remember? Is Bill Cosby still in jail or out of jail? In jail or out of jail? In or out? I'm going to look it up. Now I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Let me just find out. I can't keep track. They keep coming back to get him again every time you turn around. Is he in jail? Is he in jail? I'm just looking here. No, he's not. He was released from prison in 2021. I can't remember because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned that 2018 sexual assault conviction due to a violation of his due process rights. Just that whole thing just keeps going on and on and on too. Oh man. Yeah. Speaking of criminals, it's interesting to see when people are on, when the MAGA people who were very distrustful of government, especially when Biden was in power, they would, I think, defend an app that would help you track any kind of government agent, police officer, or whomever who might be coming after you, right? Or just to keep track on the authorities. But now that Trump is in office and you've got the MAGA crowd in charge, they're upset about an app that can be used to track a government agent because they want their government agents to have all this power so they can go out and make arrests on the street and deport the people that they don't like. So we've seen this controversial app called Ice Block, designed to track and share sightings of immigration and customs enforcement agents, and it surged to the top of the Apple App Store this week. It did that because it was fueled by a wave of downloads following sharp criticism about the app from the White House. So Ice Block was launched back in April by this Texas-based developer, Joshua Aaron, and it allows users to anonymously report ICE agent activity within a 5-mile radius, alerting others to potential raids. And the app operates under the slogan, "See something, tap something." And it has seen its user base explode from 95,000 back on Monday. And Caroline Levitt did that daily press conference the other day, and very, very critical of it, saying that it fueled or incited violence against ICE officers. Anyway, the point of this story that I'm sharing with you now is that because of the Trump administration and because of what Caroline Levitt has said, coming out criticizing the use of the app, more and more people went and got it. So now they've made it more popular than ever. Keep an eye on that one too. So yeah, and then of course, Trump talking about Zoran Mamdani, talking about that guy should be deported. Oh, also, this is an interesting story, local here to me, but in the, as we talk about the environment, a switch away from possibly gasoline to more electric vehicles. I'll, before I tell you about this story, let me go back and backtrack a little bit, because I've had people even calling me who are like within the freedom movement saying, Rick, you have to talk more about the electric vehicle mandate in Canada, which is set to start to kick in on a graduated scale, even within months. So in Canada, as the government tries to push toward a 2035 total ban on gasoline powered vehicles. I understand the concern. And yet at the same time, I also understand the other side, where we're seeing, well, today, Carney meeting with those auto industry executives, talking about the future of the auto industry. I think we need to be really, I don't know exactly how to proceed given what's going on down in the States with Trump, where he's really put the brakes on that EV mandate, talking about Musk being upset about losing the subsidy programs and the EV mandate on the U.S. side, all things that have helped Tesla, his company. But it's we're in a very difficult place, not just with the auto industry, but with the economy, and that's because of the investments now that we've made here on the Canadian side in the electrification of the auto industry, with billions and billions and billions of dollars, unprecedented levels of government intervention and support for this industry, which I personally was never really a big fan of. But as the government here tries to position Canada uh, for the future, it has been trying with these subsidies and grants in order to get the auto companies to build and convert factories into battery production facilities and even electric vehicle assembly facilities here in Canada. It hasn't quite worked out the way that that they were planning. There hasn't been enough demand. There have been problems with charging stations, and now Trump's reelection further, complicating things, because he's eliminating a lot of these provisions which are designed to push forward with the electrification of automobiles. And so I don't know if this is going to end up being a delay, or if it's going to end up being a more long-term thing, or maybe the elimination, the end of the future of electric vehicles. You could make arguments in any direction you want. The thing, though, to keep in mind is that the United States right now is becoming more and more and more isolated because of these Trump policies. And while Trump keeps saying, and I keep hearing people say, America first does not mean America alone, I'm beginning to see that, yes, it does. It does mean America alone on many fronts. And the thing that we need to be very mindful of here is that even as Trump tries to repatriate the auto industry as part of a bring manufacturing home policy, which is part of the whole idea of America first, if the rest of the world continues to pursue electric vehicles, and if the rest of the world goes electric and the United States doesn't, the United States will be left behind. And it could take decades, maybe longer. It could be a century. Who knows how long it could be for the United States to catch up. And if Canada falls into line with the US and it's a miscalculation, if it's a mistake, and we say we're going to stick with gas, but the whole rest of the world goes electric, Canada would be left behind too. So it's a very difficult thing to know, because it's hard to predict the future. In fact, you can't. So it's almost at this point a gamble, a best guess. And I personally, that's why I've always been kind of like, let the market decide, inject more free market elements into this, let the people decide. I prefer gasoline powered vehicles. But China isn't about the free market. A lot of these, not entirely, not really, although in some ways they're more free market than the US these days. But other countries, they're forcing it. The governments are pushing with this, whether we like it or not. And then you've got economies of scale and supply chains and everything else. So, and if you're producing gasoline powered cars, you don't push ahead with the technological innovation, and you don't get on board with that happening around the world, then yeah, it's going to be America alone. Yeah, you might have your gasoline powered cars, but you're going to have fewer of them, less selection. You're not going to be exporting any of that stuff to other countries. It's going to be a closed market. And that means economic contraction for the US and possibly for Canada. So, as much as people, I kept hearing this yesterday as well, Canada, from some people, out of fear, again, this fear of what's going to happen to our country in these discussions on Canada Day. The United States is so big, we don't stand a chance. They're 10 times our size. Well, of course, we just have to fall in line. We're kidding ourselves if we don't realize that we're entirely dependent on the United States. And I say that's not really entirely true for exactly the reasons I've just been laying out right now. Yeah, we want to trade as much as possible with the United States, but it has become very clear because of these threats from Donald Trump, which has sparked real, authentic, and genuine and justified fear on behalf of Canadians, on the part of Canadians, that we don't know what's going to happen to our economy, our livelihoods, our families, our ability to survive, not just as a nation, but even as individuals. Will we be able to feed our families if Donald Trump follows through with this and takes our industries away? I don't understand the people, honestly, who are cheering for what Trump is doing, say, right on, Trump. No, I don't agree with those sentiments at all. I want our countries to survive and prosper. I think that both countries can survive and prosper together, mutually and through mutually beneficial trade. What's going on right now? It's predatory. It's a zero-sum attitude. That's where Trump is coming from, or so it seems. I'm just saying, as much as people are upset about this whole EV thing, I'd say just cool your jets, stay calm. Time will tell. It's cars, man. Okay. And yeah, it's environmental stuff and it is the economy. It's all of those things. But at the end of the day, we're talking about cars. You might as well be talking about refrigerators or something. Would you be getting that upset if we were talking about the loss of like the refrigerator manufacturing industry? I don't think so. There's something about cars though that people just relate to. They're more than machines. I think people relate to them on a personal level because we drive around in them. We grew up in them. People procreate in them. Anyway, it's going to be okay is sort of my whole point here. Just a little sidebar story about gasoline and fuel. In my home community here, very interesting story today in the town of Wheatley, Ontario, which is part of my greater Chatham-Kent community. This is a small town down on Lake Erie. And they had a report today of the smell of gas in their community. And this is significant simply because back in 2021, there was a similar scare and 60 homes were evacuated after gas was detected behind a public library in that little town. It's a very, very small town, fishing village, actually, a Great Lakes fishing community. And that leak back in 2021 was contained within a day. But today's event, the one I'm talking about, they evacuated 60 homes. They contained it within like one day. But it has rekindled memories of what happened back in 2021 because there was an explosion in the town that the authorities believe came from an abandoned 19th century gas well beneath the community. Here, I've got pictures. Yeah, here's a picture from back in 2021 of what happened. It was just scary as anything. And the community still today living with the memory and even the fear of what might happen in the future as a result of these abandoned gas wells in that community, which today pose an actual real threat because of the way they were, I guess, really not properly dealt with back in the day. So now they've emerged as a problem potentially for the community moving forward. Certainly it was in 2021 with that explosion. So yeah, one of the people there posting on social media today saying it's terrifying to go through all of it again. Having firefighters go down there, evacuate all the homes because they could smell what it smells like, hydrogen sulfide. And they've sent geological experts down from the University of Windsor to take a look around and see what's going on with these old gas wells, because they don't want another mishap like that one back in 2021. But they're in good hands. Very competent fire department we have here in Chatham. Good guys over there. Dealt with them a lot over the years. So I have faith in them. Good men and women, to be sure. What else do we have for you tonight? Are we getting near the end of our broadcast tonight? Yes, indeed, we are. It's as much as there is a lot of fear out there, though, I got to tell you, I also came across a lot of people with a lot of hope. It was, I think, in many respects, the saddest Canada Day I can ever remember, because it was a Canada Day filled with fear. And I did go to this fantastic fireworks display last night. And hats off to the company that put it on, which is Fired Up Pyrotechnics. And they did a great job. It was huge, especially for a small town. It happened in Blenheim, Ontario, also part of my greater Chatham-Kent community here in Southern Ontario. And thousands of people came from all over. That little town, Blenheim, it has a population of like 5,000. And last night, this fireworks display, it attracted just about the equivalent number of people. About somewhere between probably 4,000 and 5,000 people came out to watch this last night. So the town's population exploded. A lot of the people local from the town, but a lot of people from surrounding communities as well came out to check it out. And it was spectacular. I'll tell you though, through the day, I was out there and I spoke to a lot of people, and there were just concerns about our country. People don't want to lose Canada. Not here. They certainly see the threat from the United States. They, it was on the tip of the tongue with everyone that I spoke to. As I say, top of mind. It's the first thing that was coming to mind for people. What's going to happen to our country on this Canada Day? Fear. And I think that's just the thing that made it the saddest Canada Day I can ever remember. Maybe some of those Canada Days during the height of the pandemic were worse, but I not really in the same way. This is probably worse, just because now it feels like I don't know which is worse. This is just as bad, maybe worse. And yet I have to say too, when I look at who's sitting in the White House today, it's the same guy who was there at the height of the pandemic. Isn't that an interesting coincidence? And even the announcer it was at a church, right? And so even the announcer on the PA system, who began the whole program and started talking about the fireworks, that's one of the first things that the master of ceremonies started to talk about last night, was the threat to our country. And so that made me sad. But at the same time, through all of it, there was hope. A lot of people came out for Canada Day. I saw people with Canada flags painted on their faces. I saw a giant Canadian flag on the side of the building. I saw kids and families out in huge numbers. It was a giant traffic jam in this tiny little town in my community. And that made me feel hopeful, because they were full of hope. And so couldn't be here last night, but I am here tonight. And so I thought, hey, on this day after Canada Day, I'm going to show you what I saw last night. This fantastic fireworks display in Blenheim, Ontario. And I hope this gives all of you hope tonight, too. God bless Canada on this day after Canada Day. I'll leave you with this tonight. See y'all back here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
That just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams, he's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free, he's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmos free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. A tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. So if you're feeling lost, just think of Cosmo's run. Remember his spirit, his freedom, his fun. And maybe one day when you're feeling low, you'll find your own freedom and let your spirit go. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmos free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. A tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur. A tail that wags like it's never heard of a blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains. He's running through fields, breaking all the lanes. Now the night's getting old and the sky's turning gray, but Cosmo's still out there, he's miles away. He's not looking back, he's got his path to tread. With everything fields, breaking all the lanes. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmos free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.